Hey guys, Break here. Today I wanted to go over my top 5 WoW podcasts. Now, a podcast is a kind of interesting phrase. I'm using it to mean any video which is not really meant to be watched or does not need to be watched at all, is more to be listened to. Now, this can be in the form of interviews, this can be in the form of discussions. Anyway, these are my top 5 podcasts. First up, we have Pwnecast. Now, this is a dedicated WoW podcast. It's got 167 episodes, so it's been going for quite a while. I've been watching them for a couple of years, I think. I watch every episode. I'm kind of obsessed with them, actually. I moved to their server when I joined the US servers. I was like, okay, what server did these guys play on? Because I'll go join their guild. So that's how much I enjoy them. I think they're really, really good. They've done more than 167 episodes, haven't they? How many have they done? 176. Wow. They occasionally do some other videos, but it's basically just Pwnecast. They release on iTunes, on Google Play, on all those kind of things. I watch them on YouTube. And you can watch them, like, let me show you one of their videos. It does show their faces, and they are quite entertaining to watch, so you can definitely watch them. But as you can see, 374 views, but they actually get thousands and thousands. They get like 30,000 views per video or per month or something, so they do get a ton of listeners who listen to them on iTunes. But I like to watch them. They are really, really good. They have these segments which I think are really cool. So the cast does occasionally change, but for the past few months they've had 4 main people. One of them's not here at the moment. They got Jimmer Banks on the left. He loves to talk pets. He knows everything about pets. He's got his own YouTube pet channel, and he also does a bit of gold making, a bit of PvP. Then we got Remedies on the right. He does a lot of lore stuff. He does a little lore segment every time explaining some sort of lore bit. He also does raiding, is big into his PvE. And then we got Belle in the middle. She is the main sort of producer of Pwnecast. She loves her PvP, especially her PvP tournaments, which she often covers in her segments. And she explains the news and gets everyone's input. I really like these guys. The episodes range between sort of 1 to 2 hours. They're really entertaining. I look forward to it every week. I think it's Monday they release, at least they used to. So I definitely suggest you check these guys out. Next up we have Allcraft. Now this is a pretty new podcast, but it's really good. It's probably my favourite podcast at the moment. It's on Hotted's channel, Hotted89. It's a big PvPer, and the Pwnecast episodes go up on his channel, so you'll have to subscribe to him if you want to get them on YouTube. But basically they are a discussion group between Asmongold, between Rich, the PvP like shout out, what are they called, the person who commentates on PvP, and Hotted obviously is big PvPer. And then every week they get someone else on who they kind of interview and they discuss the sort of general news with. So they had Nobble on last week. They've had Method Sko on a few times. They've had Preach on. They've had, who else have they had on? Swifty. They've had everyone on. They get some big names, to be fair. It's quite impressive. And if we go through, look, here's Nobble, Rich, Asmongold. I think they're just really good. They talk about everything. It's mostly PvE and PvP. Obviously, because a couple of them are big into PvP. Asmon's big into his PvE. And then whoever they get on, they kind of base the episode around. So they'll do the general news, but then like this time they did quite a bit of lore because they had Nobble on. They get some really big names on. It's really cool. I'm really impressed with this podcast. Like I said, it's quite new. But if you haven't seen it, I definitely suggest watching it. It's also really long. All their episodes are over 2 hours, which is great. And if you're looking for something to listen to or something to watch, then do give these guys a chance. Next up, we have Final Boss. Now, this is a very professional podcast. It's been going for a very long time. It's Bay. Some of you will know this guy here. Anyway, he does spec interviews, 2-hour spec interviews every week. So he goes through every single spec in Legion. He's done it. He did it in the pre-patch, and now he's been doing it throughout the expansion's lifespan. And it's really, really detailed. They go through what's the best gearing, what's the best talents, you know, how's the spec been feeling, rotations, you know, are there any bugs, what cool things are there, how's it been feeling in the raids. And he'll always get either 2 or 3 really good players, mythic raiders from those specs, and sometimes they don't have their faces, sometimes they do, but it's mostly a sort of podcast. You just listen to it in the background while doing something else. I listen to all of them basically, even though I basically only play one spec, which is Resto Druid, but I listen to literally all of them because Bay's really entertaining and they often say some cool things. My favourite part about Bay's podcast is the fact that after every World First race he interviews the winners. So this time it was Method, obviously, and he gets a few on. Who's he get on? Roger, Sko, obviously, and then usually a random other person. No offense, Josh. So really entertaining. They talk about the race. They talked about, you know, how they prepared, how long they spent. Bay asked some good questions. I think it's really cool. I love it. He also does some general Q&A sessions. He does some sort of expansion review at the end of the expansions where he gets people like Preach and Nobble on to talk. He's a really entertaining guy and it's a really cool podcast. Like I say, I listen to it every week. Very informative, and it's definitely something you should check out if you haven't already. Next up we have Theet Gaming. Now Theet was actually interviewed in one of Bay's final boss videos, I think the Ret Paladin one. And Theet does a load of general videos, so I was kind of deciding whether or not I should include him in the podcast. But I think some of his best videos he does are the Tuesday Talk from Twitch that he uploads to YouTube. What this is a 2 to 3 hour WoW discussion where he talks about everything WoW, including his thoughts on the latest news, basically anything, lore. People ask him questions, he will discuss it. Like I say, he's a big Ret Paladin, and he often does Ret Paladin videos as well, where he talks for like an hour about Ret Paladins. I don't really watch those, but I do watch his 2-hour Tuesday Talks every week. They're really, really good. And he also does some Theet's Mailbox, which is like a half an hour of him explaining questions he's got from his videos. He goes into them in detail. Again, it's not really something you watch, it's just a sort of podcast thing you listen to in the background. I really like his content. I think he's going to be pretty big in the future. He's been growing a lot. You know, he's at 14,000 subs now, and when I started watching him just a couple of months ago, he was at like 8,000 or 9,000, so he's been growing really quickly, so I do suggest you check him out, especially his Tuesday Talks podcast. They are really, really cool. I mean, who wouldn't want to watch him talk about WoW for 2 hours? Beautiful man. He's actually a teacher, I think, so he'd be quite a cool teacher to have, I reckon. But yeah, do check him out, he's awesome. And finally, we have Wowhead with Wowhead Weekly. Now, this is probably going to be kind of controversial because a lot of people really hate this podcast. I don't really know why. I mean, it's run by 2 girls who are kind of a bit eccentric. Sometimes can be a bit annoying, but I actually kind of like them. I think they're quite funny, and they do a really good job explaining all the news. This isn't really an entertainment podcast. It's much more of a factual news podcast. It's by the person who runs Wowhead, and then by Panzer, who I'm sure you all know. So yeah, Peculiar runs Wowhead, does a lot of great work. As you know, we all have heard of Wowhead. She's really good. And Trade Chat Panzer is entertaining. She's, again, a very controversial figure in the game, but I quite like her. Quite like them both, actually. Like I say, they give really good information. Episodes generally last an hour, sometimes a bit more. This one was only 38 minutes. I don't know why, because I haven't watched it yet. It only came out yesterday. They must be cut short for some reason. They also do a lot of giveaways, so if you're interested in giveaways, it's definitely worth checking these guys out. Wowhead's like the biggest WoW website, so they've got a lot of giveaways. Can get a lot of things from Blizzard. And if you just want a quick, well not quick, but a relatively detailed weekly sort of summary of all the things that have come out, you know, what the weekly events are you can do, what's the latest news, what's been data mined, all that stuff, these guys are going to be really good for that. Anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I am very much into my WoW YouTube, as I'm sure you've realised by now, and very much into my podcasts. I love just listening to them in the background whilst I'm doing my world quests. I know a lot of you listen to my videos like that, which is kind of cool. Anyway, let me know what you think of these guys. And also, next time in the top 5 WoW YouTubers, we're going to be doing the sort of general news people. So anyone who gives news videos or more general videos, that's what we'll be doing. Someone like Bellular, I don't know if I'm going to mention Bellular because literally everyone's heard of him, but people like that, Soul So Breezy, all those kind of guys. If you've know someone like this who I might not have heard of, who's maybe a relatively small channel, then do let me know in the comments below and I'll check them out. That's it for this video, guys. Thanks very much for watching. Until next time, see ya.